Morning, good morning, good morning. My apologies for being a few minutes late. I was having trouble uploading the slides to StreamYard. Sometimes StreamYard is as temperamental as YouTube is, and it makes it difficult to do some things sometimes. So, my apologies for being a few minutes late, but we're going to get right to it. What are we going to talk about today? Reloading, right? For outdoor spring track. And we'll go, reloading from 400 meters up to 800 meters. And what do I mean by that? It's a continual building of your fitness, right? And let's just say you're in cross country, you're training for 5K, 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 right? Every week. And then, but track season, you run 800 mile, 2 mile, and so on and so forth. So the events shorten up. And sometimes the training changes, right? And sometimes we deviate from the longer tempos and the longer reps to some shorter stuff, right? And during the spring and indoor season, which is a longer season. But then going back to the outdoors, sometimes we move back up in distance. Sometimes we go from half mile, mile, 2 mile, 2 mile, and so on and so forth. And it really depends. Sometimes we incorporate the steeple. And so reloading is getting some of these things back in reintroduced into the training if they're not a staple of your training, okay? And just think about it this way too. And I'm going to go over this in details. And if you have questions along the way, put them right in the comments, okay? So remember, if you're an athlete or a coach and it's your first time here, welcome. I always say this. And if you enjoy the content enough to come back, please do two things. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. Okay. And if you do subscribe, turn on your notifications. We go live every Sunday morning. Okay. At 9 a.m. So again, my apologies for being a few minutes late. So, but now the slides are uploaded. Now let's get right into this. Okay. We'll talk about 400 meters first. Okay. Now, obviously, you warm up drills and strides and so on and so forth. There should be a transitional piece, okay, to help you do things, okay. But there's certain things with a 400-meter run. We're talking about spring. So we're talking about reloading for outdoor and spring track. So one of the staples of your training doesn't need to be every single week, but 500-meter reps. Let's just say times 3 or 4. Take a 5 at 800-meter pace, okay. Building up to 3 or 4 of them with 5-minute recovery. What does that do? Well, it's the same thing as, I'm talking about down below, speed endurance 200s, okay, with a 2-minute recovery, progressing towards eventually 130 recovery. But speed endurance 200s, let's just say you're doing 8 or 10 of these. And you generally do them at 800-meter pace, no matter what your 400 is, okay? That's going to be building that collective accumulation of strength for the 800 meters, which is going to make it a little bit easier for you to build strength and fight off some of the lactic that sometimes occurs in the legs. Well, not sometimes, but pretty much all the time with 100 meters to go in 400 meters, especially if folks go out too fast in the 400. That bear jumps on your back. Well, the more strength you have at the 800, the better off you're going to be in the last 100 meters, the last 150 meters of the 400. And these are two staples of training. If you're not doing now, I would reintroduce them into the training. Okay. Speed endurance 200s could be a weekly thing, could be a bi-weekly thing. And again, building towards 8 to 10 reps. You could start with a 2-minute recovery, and then you could progress toward 90-second recovery after each rep during the workout. And the 500-meter reps, let's just say that's a workout you could do every 2 weeks at 800-meter pace. Again, building towards 3 or 4 of them. So again, the volume itself is no more than 2K worth of volume. But ample recovery, so a little bit more than a mile's worth of volume at 800-meter pace. Okay, these are good components of training for the 400, which will make it easier to do the much faster stuff later on, which needs to be introduced into the training every week, no matter what it is. So if it's event-specific stuff or short, fast, really fast stuff, that should be a weekly staple of your training as well. But these things right here should be incorporated. These are the reloading components for the 400 meters. And let me know if you have questions along the way. Okay. Now let's move to the 800. Okay. And this is another reloading principle too. Now, as an 800-meter runner, you should be strong enough to step up and run a mile if need be. Or even if you're not racing, you should still be strong enough to run a good mile. Okay. And also fast enough to step down and run a 4x4, or fit enough to run a 4x8. Now, see these things in the beginning? 8 times a 300 with a 1-minute recovery at mile pace. And then alternating with this with 8 to 10 times a 400 with 130 recovery at 3K pace. Now, what am I doing this for? What's the focus there? The focus is being mechanically sound, focusing on good strength while you're building your endurance. Okay, good posture, good running mechanics. Because when you step down to the 800, you're going to be running faster, but you're going to need to maintain these mechanics. So these two sessions here, 300s and 400s at those paces, are ones you want to lock into a certain pace, but you want to do it with good mechanics. This is where you work on efficient running with the arms and the legs, so that when you step down and you're going to run the 800, you're going to be maintaining those mechanics as best you can. Because when we run faster, lactic tends to come into the legs and the arms, and we need to be able to fight through that stuff. We need to be able to run fast in training to make it easier to run fast in competition. Okay. Now, next up is your speed endurance 200s, like you talk about in the 400. But now here, you're starting at 130 recovery, building towards 8 to 10 reps instead of 2-minute recovery. Okay. And over time, at 800-meter pace, over time, you continue to build this. And this is a compounding workout. But you can also do speed endurance 200s at mile pace, but you're going to do 12 to 15 reps there with a 1-minute recovery. Rhythm work. So let's just say you're a 2-minute mile, 2-minute and a half miler. You're running these speed endurance 200s, and you start in 29:30 and you work your way down to 28, 29 throughout the season. And generally the equivalent to 2-minute half mile is about a 420 miler. So you're going to run those speed endurance 200s at mile pace at 31, 32. So just slightly slower. Not much slower, but slightly slower. You get to do a little bit more volume. But again, this is good rhythm work. Okay. But it's also good reloading. Yeah, you're adding what, a mile worth of volume at mile at half mile pace. You're adding 2 miles worth of volume or close to it at mile pace. All good reloading workouts. Okay. And lastly, this is a good workout here. 3 sets of 4x200. Okay. At 800-meter pace. The first set you're going to do 90 seconds after each rep. Okay. The second set you're going to do 75 seconds after each rep. And then the third set you're going to do 60 seconds after each rep. Recovery. This is a recovery. And then you're going to do 4 minutes recovery in between the sets in the beginning of the season. And then you're going to progress from the recovery component. So next time you do it, a couple times later, you'll see your first set will be 75 seconds recovery. Second set will be 60 seconds recovery. Third set will be 45 seconds recovery. And you still take that 4-minute break in between the set. Get fluid, stay loose, whatever you need to do. Okay, that's good. That 4-minute break is going to make it a little bit easier to tolerate those recovery periods. But at some point, you can get to the point where you're doing 8 to 10 times a 200 at your goal 800-meter pace with a minute recovery or 45 seconds recovery. That's the ultimate test of your fitness. Okay, and these are workouts that I talk about a little bit differently during the indoor season, but still they're principal workouts. Okay, staple workouts. Okay, now keep in mind as well, we talk about you get your long tempos, right? Your threshold stuff and longer reps during cross country. And then as you start to see that during the winter indoor season, we start to combine tempo and recovery, a tempo and race pace stuff. I'm talking about too, like 2 to 3 mile tempo instead of 4 or 5. And then you add a little bit of race specific stuff at the back end of it, right? And then now we're kind of cutting back the tempo a little bit and doing a little bit more reloading work. Okay, but you can still use the tempo as a continual addition of your fitness. But you could stay back on the tempo. So if you say your tempo is at 3 to 4 miles during cross, it's 2 miles or so during indoor track. You can do it still a mile tempo, all right, to elevate the heart rate to give you a little bit more VO2 max training, and then go into this workout. It's up to you to decide whether you want to do that or not. Okay, but the component of reloading is to reintroduce a lot of the race pace stuff, but shorter reps. Allows you to do that for most distances. But now, okay, now we're going to talk about fulcrum staple workouts, because when you step up over the 800, then you want to start to introduce some longer reps as well. Okay, and if you have questions along the way, please put them right in the comments. Okay, now we're going to talk about your 1500-meter run on the mile. Okay, same thing, warm up, drill strides, transitional piece. This is a good reloading workout too. And we'll start in the bottom first. 4 to 5 times an 800 at 3K pace. but it's a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio. So let's just say you're looking to break 10 minutes. You're running these in 228 to 230. You take the same recovery, 230 recovery. Okay. If you're looking to break 12 minutes, you're going to run them in 258 to 3 minutes, and so on. You take the same recovery as the rep or close to it. That's what 1-to-1 work to rest ratio is. So 800 at 3K pace, no more than 4 to 5. And then you can also do 5 to 6 times 1K at 5K pace with the same 1-to-1 work rest ratio. So let's just say you're looking to break 17 minutes, right? Or whatever it might be. You're running these in 323, 324. You take the same recovery. You're looking to break 16 minutes, right? Or if 16 minutes is the equivalent to your mile, okay? You run them in 311, 312, same recovery. If sub 15 is your equivalent, then you run them in 3 minutes and take a 3-minute recovery, and so on. Same recovery as long as it took you to run the rep is the recovery component here. So these are staple workouts that are really, really, really important for milers to do. Okay, compounding fitness. And lastly, up top, we'll get a little more race specific here. 3 sets of 3 by 300. Okay, so it's 9 by 300 total, a little bit more than almost 2 miles worth of volume in mile pace. Okay, but it goes as such. You run these 300s at mile pace. Your first set, you're going to do them with 90-second recovery. The second set, you're going to do with 75 seconds recovery. Third set, you're going to run them with 60 seconds recovery. You take 4 minutes in between the set. Okay, so the recovery gets cut, just like the 200s. And for the 800-meter runners, it gets cut each set. So it gets a little bit more race specific each set, but allows you to go over distance here with volume. Okay, but each set gets a little bit more intense. And as you get fitter, or as your athletes get fitter, you progress towards 75 seconds of recovery after the first set, same workout, 60-second recovery after the second set, 45 seconds recovery after the third set. Okay, and again, there's only 3 reps. So with each set, that's what allows you to get down to 45 seconds recovery the second time out. But again, if you're fit enough, or if your athletes are fit enough to do it. But again, that's 9 consecutive 300s. Now you can build towards other things as well, and we'll get to that as well. Okay, but this is a really, really good for your athletes whose primary event is the mile or the 1500 meters. Okay, 1600. This makes sense, folks. Again, if you have questions, please put them in the comments. I will answer them lifetime. Okay, these are good reloading workouts for the outdoor season. Okay, if you're not doing these, because even if you're training for the mile, that doesn't mean every workout needs to be a super hard and fast interval workout. Okay, like 200s and 300s and 400s are really fast. Okay, those matter, but these are the types of things like these fulcrum workouts at 3K pace and 5K pace that are going to make the race pace stuff at mile pace or faster more tolerable. They're going to help you recover from them better. Okay, they're going to allow you to do them a little bit more aggressively later on in the season. That's why these workouts are so important. Reloading is important. Okay, and again, doing these longer workouts, you can even do threshold work the week of a big race. I talked about this too as well. You can do 5 times a K at threshold pace the week of a goal race. If the goal of the week is to run a fast race that week, then your workout can be a threshold workout. You can slow down the pace in the workout, cut the recovery, right? And get ready to run a fast race. And a lot of folks do this. Marcus O'Sullivan used to do this all the time. He used to start to do threshold work the week of, or the workout for the week in a week where he's running a fast 1500 meter run, fast 1500 race, even at the championships, the big races. Okay. So these types of long things definitely come in handy, building that collective strength. All right, now let's move up to the 2 mile, the 3K. Okay, if you've abandoned or just gotten away from tempos, I would reintroduce them here. Okay, get that 20 to 25 minute collective tempo again. That's VO2 max conditioning. That should be a year-round thing, just like really, really fast stuff is. Speed development. So here's 20 to 25 minute tempo. Let's just take a 5 to 6 minute active recovery. Okay, or 5-minute recovery. Then you do some 3 to 4 times 150 at 800 meter pace. You can take a walk back recovery, 2-3 minutes, whatever recovery you need. But those short and fast stuff. Now you're going to reintroduce this kind of progressive overload. Okay, reintroducing that tempo, or tacking really, really fast speed, 800-meter pace in the back end of it. Okay. That again teaches you how to turn over when you're fatigued. Okay. And this is something that happens during cross. It happens during indoor, happens during outdoor. So at no point would I abandon these things in training. Anything that's going to help you collectively build fitness and work on your turnover at the end of a race, I would be doing on a regular basis. And that's one of the things. Okay. But here's another one. Your 2 mile tempo, 5 minute recovery, then 6 times the 400 with a 2 minute recovery at mile down to 800-meter pace. Right. Again, working on that tempo and incorporating some race specific stuff, but cutting it from 20 to 25 minutes to 2 miles. Okay. At your appropriate tempo pace. And 6 times the 400s, race specific work, elevating the heart rate and making it easier to attack those 400s. 2 minute recovery. So from mile to 800-meter pace. That's another good session to do. And again, remember, the better your mile is, the better 800 is, the better your 2 mile, the better your 5K is going to be. Keep that in mind. When I talk about testing your fitness early in the season or late in the season, what do we test you at? A mile. Okay. So we're constantly working on improving our mile, even if we run distances above it in distance. You always want to improve the mile. So we've got to be fit enough and fast enough to do that. Okay. Then here, next up, again, reloading. 4 times 1K with a 3 minute recovery at your goal 2 mile pace. Okay, a little bit longer reps, 4 times a kilometer, 4K, but at your goal 2 mile pace. If you're going to run these at 5K pace, then you do 2 minute recovery, 1K reps. But here's a 2 mile pace, a 3K pace. Okay, and then the other reloading work here is 5 times a 1200 with a 230 recovery at your goal 5K pace. Okay, longer reps, building that collective strength. And we've got to be able to be strong enough to be able to run these long reps, especially approaching your goal distance and exceeding your goal distance. Okay. And generally for the folks that run the 2 mile, either did run the 5K during cross or longer, or going to go back to run the 5K outdoor. But again, even if you're in the spring outdoor season, you want to let that, and especially if you're not a senior in high school, you want to let that roll right into the summer and into the summer base training for cross country. And if you're going from high school to college, this is definitely something you definitely want to do, because you're going to go up in distance. If you're a senior in high school now, you're going to freshman college later, you're either going to run 6K for women or 8K, 10K for men. These are good staple workouts to help you there, help to transition towards that too. Okay. And lastly here, okay, this is a threshold session plus speed. Okay. So the workout is 2K at threshold, 3-minute recovery. Remember, threshold pace is about 8 to 10 seconds faster per mile than your tempo run at the appropriate pace. So 2K threshold, 3-minute recovery. Then you do 3 times the 400 with a 1-minute recovery at 3K pace. Okay. Then you do a 1500-meter rep at threshold. Same threshold pace as before, 3-minute recovery. Then you do 3 times the 300 with the same 1-minute recovery at mile pace. Because now it gets a little bit faster as reps get shorter. Then you go back, you do a 1K threshold pace, 3-minute recovery, and then you do 3 times the 200 with the 1-minute recovery at 800-meter pace. So the race pace stuff gets faster, but the threshold is there to not only build your VO2 max, but also to help, okay, take any junk that might be in the legs. And essentially, you're not going to really go lactic at 3K pace for 400s. Okay, you may feel a little bit in the legs with 300s at mile pace and 200s at 800-meter pace. But the whole point here is to sneak in threshold with race pace along the way and let the race pace stuff get faster. This is also a good reloading workout. And generally for folks that run the 2 mile, also step down for the mile, right? Also step down on the 4x8. Well, there you go. There's your race pace stuff in there. And if you add up the threshold, it's 4,500 meters worth of threshold pace, right? It's a little under 3 miles at threshold pace, but broken into pieces. If you add the volume, it's 1,200 meters at 3K pace, 900 meters at mile pace, 600 meters at 800-meter pace. Okay, not even 3K worth of volume. So it's just a little bit of an over distance session, but this is a good session, especially during the spring track season. Okay, it allows you to pretty much get everything you need to get in this session. Now, so these are reloading events for folks whose primary event is going to be the 2 mile. Okay. Now, what do we got next? Your 5K. This is your last one. Folks whose primary event is the 5K. Okay, obviously, You want to continue to build your in distance, right? You want to continue to build aerobic runs like you do in the mile and 2 mile. You want to continue keeping that long run going. Okay, get them over rolling hills if you get the opportunity to do that to build that collective and accumulate the compounding leg strength and aerobic fitness. But here the workout is a 2 mile tempo, take a 5 minute recovery, and again going back to that 6x400. But instead of doing it for 2 mile with 2 minute recovery for folks that focus on a 2 mile, do 90-second recovery for folks that focus on the 5K. And what the goal here is to improve your mile time, right? The better your mile is going to be, the better your 5K is going to be. And then over time, if you do this, and this is a good repeatable workout, you use 6x400s at mile pace, but you cut the recovery down to 75 seconds per rep after your 2 mile tempo. And then if you do it a third time, you cut the recovery down to 60 seconds per rep for the same 6x400. And it's always going to be after this 2 mile tempo. That's going to be your VO2 max hit. Okay, the 5 minute recovery is going to be there to recover. And then we do some race specific stuff. This is not a super volume workout. And not every workout needs to be high volume when you train for the 2 mile and 5K. Not every workout needs to be super high intensity when you're running the 800 meters in the mile either. Threshold benefits them, and this type of stuff benefits the longer stuff. Okay, good reloading session. Okay, and then you got your staple sessions here, 5 to 6 times 1K with a 130 recovery at your goal 5K pace. Okay, the recovery is a little bit different here than it is when focusing on the mile and 2 mile. Okay, if the focus race is a mile, you want to get as close to being specific as possible. So the recovery here is 90 seconds after each rep at goal 5K pace. So again, if you're looking to break 18 minutes, you're running these in 334, 335. Looking to break 17 minutes, you're running them in what? 322, 323. Looking to break 60 minutes, you're running them in 310, 311. Looking to break 15 minutes, you're running them in 258, 259. Looking to break 14 minutes, you're running them in 240, 246, 247, right? And that's it, 247, 248. That's pretty much it. Okay, and then you got your 30 to 40 minute tempo. Now this is an aerobic threshold. Okay, your 20 to 25 minute stuff is anaerobic threshold. That's at half marathon pace. Your aerobic threshold can be longer, but that's at a marathon pace. So it's about 12 to 15 seconds slower per mile. And again, this is a good accumulation of fitness. It also helps starts you build towards progressive long runs as well. So 30 to 40 minute hit at anaerobic threshold tempo, 5 minute recovery. Then you do either 5 by 100 or 4 by 150 afterward with a 2 minute recovery at, let's just say, 800 meter pace, right? So you have two tempos here, your anaerobic threshold and your aerobic threshold. They both serve as VO2 max developing components. Okay, especially if you're running the 5K. I would do both of them as a 5K runner, but if you're only doing this, then do this. And again, this is going to help build that collective compounding fitness so that as you do move up in distance, if you're going from 5K to 10K, or if you're doing the same thing in cross country, these are the types of things that help build that collective fitness. And reloading is an all year round thing, just like speed development is. Okay. And then lastly, you have your 2 mile tempo at your anaerobic threshold tempo. So this is one that's a little bit different than 30 to 40 minutes. This is done at half marathon pace. Take the 5 minute recovery. Then you can do 300 meter hill repeats. Hill running is a staple of endurance training for middle distance and distance runners that don't need to be abandoned after cross country. Just because your cross country season is over, that doesn't mean we stop running hills. Okay, this is a good way of building leg strength, leg speed, okay, and working on your mechanics. Okay, high knee lift, aggressive arm swing, pumping, moving forward, leaning into the hill. Okay, and then jogging down nice and easy, also leaning into the hill when you're coming down. Let's just say you build towards 6 to 8 reps of 300 meter hills after your tempo. Again, the 2 mile tempo is the VO2 max component. And then hill repeats is the speed development and leg speed component. And again, this will also make 300s on the track feel easier. Okay, so these are your reloading sessions for 400 up to 5,000 meters. Let me know if you have any questions now. Okay, if they make sense. And if you incorporate these now. And like I said, there are some longer stuff for the shorter events. There are some shorter stuff for the longer events. They have to complement each other. Okay, you want to continue to develop your speed. You You want to continue to develop your aerobic fitness. And aerobic fitness is going to help fight that lactic acid monster, especially in the 400 and 800, when your legs tie up in the last 100 of the 400, the last 200 to 800. And this generally happens when you go out too fast. But people who do this type of stuff right here position themselves to not go out too fast. Okay? It doesn't matter where you're at the first 200 of a 400. It matters where you're at the last 200. Doesn't matter where you're at the last 200 of an 800. It matters where you're at the last 200, right? So if your goal is to break 2 minutes, instead of going on 25, you go on 28, 29. Then you try to come back in 28, 29 for that second 200. Now you're at 58, 59. A lot of folks, if you go 29, 29 instead of 25, 33 or 26, 33, right? You'll feel a heck of a lot better coming through in 400. You'll have a heck of a lot left in the last lap, in the last 2 laps if you're an indoor season. Okay? This is where rhythm work at a specific pace comes in handy. It makes it easier to not go out too fast. But if you do, it also makes it easier to come back stronger from going out too fast. Okay, and we do have a question. Multi-K, there he is. How you doing, my man? How important is it having purposeful active recovery in easy paces? They are too slow for these paces. Active recovery? Not necessarily. I mean, you could jog nice and easy and walk some of it too. Just stay loose. An easy jog doesn't have, especially these. It doesn't really have to be a specific pace. But as a distance runner, if you learn how to do an active recovery at a slightly faster pace along the way, then that'll serve you well. But again, that generally applies most when you're moving up to 10K, half marathon, and marathon. Getting the work here matters most. The right work and the appropriate pace work. So what you do, and that's a good question too. Multi-Kenny is always asking good questions. So active recovery, as long as you stay active. Like I said, if your recovery is 3 minutes after the tempo, you could jog a minute and a half, walk half a minute and a half, put some fluid in, you stay loose. Do what you need to do. Okay, and if it's cold and you're outside, then I would spend a little bit more time moving around and jogging. But then you can walk around a little bit if you need to. But active recovery is important. It's better than just standing around doing nothing. But in some cases, people do that too, especially if the work is really intense, like those 6 times of 400 after the tempo. That could be a little intense, right? Or these speed endurance 200, speed endurance 300, where you don't have a ton of time, right? So just staying loose as much as you can in between each rep is key. Anything that's going to help you maintain the pace you're looking to run in the workout itself, you want to continue doing it. And if it's something you're doing right now, altogether is working for you, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Okay. But this is another piece too. And this is, maybe we'll do a live stream on this as well. What do you need to do in the recovery periods based on the workout, right? If you're doing these 5K reps these 1K reps at 5K pace, you can jog half and walk half, right? Off the time, right? It's going to help keep the heart rate up, okay? And transition into the next rep. Just whatever you need to do, stay loose and active. But I would keep some fluids nearby. As a coach, I would make sure my athletes have fluids. So if you need to take a sip, not a gulp, of the fluid to keep yourself hydrated, it would be an important component too. Gulping, last thing you want to do is have something that's going to upset your stomach, right? Okay, Multi-Kenny, we'll do that as a video. I will do that as a video, maybe next Sunday. That's it. Let me write this down. See, I take notes along the way too with you guys. So when you ask your questions, what to do during recovery periods. I'll say sprint, middle distance. That'll be the next video. Multi-Kenny, thank you for asking. Next Sunday's video is going to be that, what to do during recovery periods. So for coaches and athletes, keep bringing your questions. Because if you ask questions like this and I don't have a video on it, I will do that for you so that we can continue to learn. And if you do something that works for you, please mention in the comments. Please share it. It might help us too as coaches. It's a continual learning experience as a coach, right? Continual learning experience as an athlete. The more we learn, the better off we're going to be, the better prepared we're going to be to compete, to train, and so on. So, great question, Multi-Kenny. Does anybody else have any questions? Or Multi-Kenny, if you have any more questions along the way before I wrap this up. Okay. I want to make sure that the stuff is answered. And I want to make sure that these reloading workouts make sense to you or anybody that's in here that makes sense to all of you that are in here, right? And do you do reloading sessions? That's one of the things that's going to help make those harder sessions more tolerable, right? Oh, Multi-Kenny might have another question. All right. So again, these reloading workouts, and especially this one, I learned this right from Clyde Hart, the former Baylor coach. Those speed endurance 200s is absolute staple. Train for the 400, no matter what season you train for. Okay, indoor or outdoor. Reloading speed endurance 200s, 8 to 10 times a 200. Let's just say it's at 800-meter pace, right? And again, my experience as a coach too, a lot of folks that are doing eight times 200 and getting to like 28 seconds over time with the 2-minute recovery tend to be my sub 50 400-meter runners. Also tend to be sub 2-minute or close to sub 2-minute half milers also. So think about a track meet where you have some folks that run a fast 600 or fast 800, come back and run a fast 4x8 or fast 4x4. If you have enough of those athletes doing that, then you have some really good relays. We had a workout Saturday called the track mock meet. Ooh, cool. We drew random teams to make 4x8s and ran them at tempo. Rest for 4 minutes, then did a 3,200 rest with first mile easy, second mile tempo. Then rest 10 minutes, and then did a 4x4. So let's see, you ran an 800-meter tempo pace, rested 4 minutes, then you did a 3,200-meter with a first mile easy, second mile tempo. Then you rested 10 minutes, and then you did a 400. Is that right? Is that the workout for everybody? 800, 2 mile, 400? That's interesting. Another thing you could try, Multi-Kenny, is do that 3,200-meter rep again and do the first rep at tempo and the second mile faster to get used to running the second half it faster, right? Instead of going easy and then tempo, you could start at tempo and then go faster than tempo. Okay. It's an interesting workout, Multi-Kenny. Creative, man. Do you have enough athletes to do that? I'm guessing you do. Originally, we had a 1,600, but ran out of time. Okay. Most had 1,600. Yeah, no, I get it. Well, if you only have enough time to do that workout again, you could take the 2 mile component to a higher level. That's good creativity right there, Multi-Kenny. Good creativity. Interesting. Easy tempo, run the second half faster, which is good. 800-meter rep at tempo. That's essentially your transitional piece. And then a 4x4. That 4x4 fast, like really fast, to finish the workout strong. Cool. I like it. I like it. Do you have enough batons at your disposal? You could also do a workout like that 800-meter threshold, and you can do, let's just say, whatever the workout is, 400s at mile pace, and give every runner a baton, which gets them used to practicing starting with a baton. Sometimes people get, and again, I see a lot of these races where somebody drops the baton the first 20 meters of a relay. The race gets called back, right? Get used to holding on, attacking in the beginning, going out with the baton in your hands so that everybody knows what it feels like to be the leadoff runner, okay? And then running fast along the way so that if you get the baton, you're running with people, right, on a regular basis. Running with people is a little bit different than running without people with the baton, right? So it just gives you practice on how to hold on to that baton, how to run mechanically sound, and have it not knocked out of your hands. Because this does happen. We go out fast. If someone else goes out fast, we tend to sometimes it hang. We tangle hands. It happens. The out of athletes were Saturday was their first day back due to swimming and other reasons. It was an intro day, so well, if someone's all out, we have a bunch of batons. That's cool. Well, that's good, especially as a reintroduction session too. Your transitional piece, your 2 mile and your 400. That's a good reintroduction session. That's something you can build on too. That's definitely something you can build on. You could do a different transitional piece. You could do that 2 mile again, but then do tempo and then faster, and then you can do the same 4x4 on the back end. Okay, you can make that a 4x8 if you want. Where the transitional rep is shorter in the beginning, the race pace a rep is faster at the end. There's a lot of ways you can be creative with the workout. Multi-canyon, that's good work, man. That's good work. I like it. Anybody else have any questions before I wrap it up? I do have to get upstairs. I gotta go feed the animals and start to get breakfast ready for the family. They sleep in on Sundays. Yes, indeed. So if you have a bunch of batons you order, that's something I would do that too. Let's just say the workout itself is 400-meter repeats. Give everybody a baton. Have everybody hold a baton for the entire workout. Right? Gets them used to running fast with a baton. Gets them used to if you're running a 4x80, you're running a DMR, you're holding that baton for 4 laps. Right? Say the workout's 4 times a 400 at the end. Each one, they have a baton. Right? So that the 400-meter runners can step up if they need to. But the 400-meter runners run multiple relays in a day. Either way, they're holding that baton and going out at the gun with the baton. Okay, and that's when the path goes from here to there. It narrows really quickly. This is where we can get in trouble. This is where they can work on these types of things. Being situationally aware when you say go again. Right? And knowing how to not get jostled and not get tied up. Especially when other people have batons in their hands. So it's a good way of practicing technical components of the running as well. You're welcome. Just some ideas. Again, I like your idea too, so I'm gonna learn from your idea too. Try to incorporate something like that as well. That's a great idea, especially if you have athletes coming from other sports who are just coming back to running. It's a way of getting their legs under them systematically and gradually. So well done, Multi-Kenny. But with that, I want to thank you all for coming. Go have a great rest of the weekend. If your season hasn't ended yet, number one, congratulations, and good luck the rest of the way during nationals. Okay, and then we'll see you in the outdoor season. Right? Let's have a great outdoor season. And if any of these workouts are helpful, please utilize them as a reloading principle if you're not doing them already. Right? The stronger we get, the better we get. Okay. Have a great weekend, everybody. Peace and love. I'll see you next time.